I'm a walkout of varsity, so I never graduated. And I use the word walkout, not dropout, because I feel I haven't dropped from anything. I made a conscious decision to walk out of the institution. And came back to the room and I reflected on all the brown and black brothers and sisters who were in this room, who all were here for this promise of education being the key to liberation. Yet, at the end of this year, all of us would have death. This boy was also given Ritalin. Ritalin. I never knew what it was. Gasle, one day, I said to this boy, bruh, if I'm going to give you this pill, I want to first also have it myself. So I'm going to give you a pill, because your parents asked me to, and I'm also going to take a pill. I took the Ritalin with him. And yo, that pill now, it can turn the most colorful day into a grey day of existential dread.
In a world where Africans have lost their roots, it has become of vital importance to document our ways. In an effort to reverse the brainwashing of the past, where we were made to believe our ways are demonic, we are pressed to create dignified and respectful platforms to unpack our spiritual ways. The views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of the guest and do not necessarily reflect the beliefs or position of this channel, its hosts, or affiliates. This podcast is a platform for open discussions and exploration of various perspectives, including controversial and unconventional ideas. We encourage viewers to think critically, do their own research, and form their own opinions. The content is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be taken as fact, advice, or an endorsement of any specific viewpoint. Viewers' discretion is advised. Moya light, Moya bright. Welcome to another episode of Moya Podcast. We really appreciate all the love and support that we're getting from you guys. We can see the channel is slowly, definitely growing. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. And most especially, please and thank you for watching all the ads all the way to the end, please, guys, because that's the way that you can help financially contribute while sitting at home without affecting your bank account. Thank you a million times. So last time we had an episode about unlearning and unschooling with Mama Yolanda. You guys were crazy about that episode. The parents, there's a lot of conversation around the comment section in that episode. If you haven't already watched it, please do go back with Yolanda and Denisa. But in that episode, she introduced us to a gentleman called Chèvanni, who has started a school or an unschool. All right. So we were lucky enough to get hold of you for you to come and unpack who you are and what you do. So maybe start at who you are.
My name is chevannidavids. Um, to who am I? Maybe would be a better way of engaging that question. I am to my son, Ayakush. I am to my spirits, my ancestors, my guides. And I'm also to the young people that exist in bigger, older bodies like you and me. And those that also, the young people that also exist in smaller bodies, both in the past and in the future. And it's through a dance and interpretation of all things seen and unseen that I'm of service to what we're currently naming to be this idea of unlearning or deschooling or unschooling. And yeah, I play, meander, cause chaos, disrupt, get lost in these worlds.
So we learned that you have this school, and we want to know how you got to it, because it was even before you had a child. So how did you get to this thought that you needed to do this, and how does the school actually work?
Okay, I'm going to take a deep breath.
And feel free, be comfortable. We have time for you.
I think it's not a story that can easily be named to be there was one moment where this one thing happened. Rather, like everybody, we go to school, we go through many forms of portal or translating ourselves. So we end up, we grow up as children, full of curious, full of wonder, saying the wrong things at the right time, or saying the right thing at the wrong time, or more importantly, maybe even seeing things that are not there, and we are told that no, that's not, that's just your imagination. Hey, when you tagalan, it's like a whole world of seen and unseen that young people possess. So it's those memories of that part of my childhood that I bring forth. I also come from a world of education where my mom, my dad, my grandfather all worked in different forms of education and teaching and learning. I was that child whose mom was a teacher, so I spent a lot of time at school for extramural stuff, to stay behind with my mom, to tend to whatever the school required her to tend to. And I did the schoolish thing, felt different tensions, but could never had language or words to really make sense of that which I was going through, because everything was just but so normal. It was normal for us to go to school and fulfill this arrow-based idea of success. Uh, I think some bigger questions started happening around varsity, where I went to the University of Johannesburg, uh, and I went. The only reason that I went there because I was bullied by my parents to go study. Us brown and black people, especially being first generation uh, people to go to the university.
Yeah.
Uh, that was the experience. We went to university, and I always had a social element to me. I like things. Urataritaba. That was my problem, also my gift, what I'm learning. So with this said, um, at I think it was at high school I started sensing into I'm different. I'm feeling something is different. I got a chance to further exercise what is different through at varsity, where a friend of mine told me that the most important thing you could do at varsity is make friends more than your degree. So through the selling of Nsangu, I had the ability to meet lecturers, I had the ability to make different friends in different faculties, even sit into different tutorial sessions, different lecturers sessions, and the one degree that I went for, which was an educational degree, became so much more bigger than the experience I signed to on paper. I was met with different ways of thinking, different ways of seeing the world through different faculties, and there came a time towards the my final years. Um, I'm a walkout of varsity, so I never graduated. And I use the word walkout, not dropout, because I feel I haven't dropped from anything. I made a conscious decision to walk out of the institution, and reasons being was one. First of all, I used to have longer locks, and I was gonna go do my practicals in the schools, and they said, "Yo, Chèvanni, this here, my brother, it's not professional, so we need you to fix yourself, translate yourself, fit yourself into a CV so we can present you to our learners and you can uphold institution, constitution, a way of thinking and being." And I was like, but it's not me. Me, I'm like this. So that was the one moment. And there was another moment, and the joke of it, I laugh every time I have to tell the story, was that in psychopathology, there was a textbook that cost like 6,000 Rand, and any person that went to varsity or any institution knows that these institutions only use, like if a textbook has maybe 15 chapters, you'll only use maybe 3 or 5. You'll be tested on only 3 or 5. And I saw that, so part of selling Zangu, hustling, I was also selling music, like music that wasn't readily available. Uh, I was downloading and writing discs and selling. And on the same websites, I found textbooks. And I found a psychopathology textbook of 2 years prior. And I downloaded it. The words were exactly the same. All these theorists, Skinner, Freud, all of their theories are set in currently stone. They're not changing. And I passed that exam with a bootlegger textbook with 70 something percent. And came back to the room and I reflected on all the brown and black brothers and sisters who were in this room, who all were here for this promise of education being the key to liberation. Yet, at the end of this year, all of us would have debt, a debt of 120,000 Rand, and not just a debt of physical, financial, but also a debt of our soul, the debt of having translated our dreams, our callings, our initiations for whatever the system has promised us. And it's by virtue of these troublesome, problematic experiences that um, I began questioning. I eventually said that, you know what, mums, parents, kahle kahle me, I think my spirit is calling for something else. And note, these are brown black parents. You are passing well at varsity. You're getting invitations to do your honors already. And here, this guy tells us he does not want to pursue his studies. He wants to walk out. So that was a fight, and still is in different elements. However, I chose to risk it. And I found a job on Gumtree that said superhero needed to teach 5 kids. So the intention was for me to do first some traveling and find myself. And I needed a job for money. So I went to Gumtree, found a job, and it said superhero needed. And when I met these parents, and the story is very important because this is where I met my mentors, the people that actually initiated me. Um, and these were 5 kids. So I met the parents of 5 kids, and all these parents came from private schools, public schools, even were now attempting to do homeschooling, and they were sitting with tensions of that the reality they knew their children as mothers was in contradiction to what the school was saying. For instance, a school labeled a young person at the age of 6 to be a failure. I just want us to let that sink in. That the school, and I'm not sure how it is for everybody else, but around the world I know that teachers hold a higher authority to parents. The child will come home and say, Mommy, my teacher said, tan, 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 tan. So please, Mommy, we have to listen to my teacher. So the same authority that captures a child's heart has the same ability to name this child to be a failure. The moment happened where I invited the young person to join me in reading the book. And under breath, I heard them read. And I was like, yo, please read the book. They're like, no, Chèvanni. I'm like, Kahle, why? They're like, I'm a failure. I can't read. I'm like, oh, wow. And that like sank in my body in the most crazy way. And I thought about, and I reflected because I also failed grade 9. And I remembered what that done to me somatically, how I'm not sure how it is in families, but when we go home, Emakaya and Ukogo ask one question in December. They ask one question. Did you pass? And when you answer no, and then you don't get chicken, they give you just that piece over here. You get treated differently because of your failure. You actually get abandoned. You actually get uh, ostracized, demoralized. Yeah. So I realized that wow, this is happening to young people at the age of 6. And if a young person can embody the word failure at the age of 6, what does this do for 16? What does this do for 21? What does this do for 36? What does this do for 73? And what are we doing in this attempt of education? So these young people from different backgrounds, white folk, black folk, brown folk, biracial folk, uh, all were given me. Well, I was given the freedom to be with these kids, and to do nothing but what I was taught, how I was originally taught. But through my mom being a teacher, she experimented everything that she first did, that she would naturally take to school. She first practiced at home. I'm one of 3 brothers, so she had enough time and space to practice with us. And my mom did something interesting. She only played with us. I don't remember learning to read and write. I don't remember learning to count or to speak or to negotiate, because I don't think it was learning. I was learning. I was playing. And I chose to play with these kids. And it's by virtue of a deep form of play that I became aware of what everything I taught by studying curriculum, by being at university, that everything I got taught was to be deeply questioned and interrogated in the deepest way. The assumptions that we have of young people being ignorant. I mean, even if we look at the word childish is used, or child is used in English, it's used as a derogatory word. If I say in Tsiki, you are childish. If I say to our listeners and our viewers, you are childish, it's automatically there's zindaba now, there's tabas now, there's a qual now that we have to address. So what is wrong with the way we treat children? What is wrong with this word child? To be a child is to be not trusted. To be a child is to mean that you are ignorant, you are foolish. To be a child also means that there's no sense of reverence for your being, that you have no autonomy, no identity. You are yet to be. You aren't. Hence, we ask children, what do you want to become, as if they are not in initiations or in processes that are far beyond our imagination. So yeah, had the honor to be initiated by these young people, and they actually opened up this world of unschooling and unlearning to me in the most in the most deep relational way. And ever since then, I've been carrying this sort of uh, Bible or prophecy of a way of learning that is outside of school. And if we think about it in the South African context, schooling is only about 150 years old. So we have grandmothers, great grandmothers, for those of us that are privileged enough to have great grandmothers, who never went to school, yet they knew how to make some crazy chwala, yet they knew how to heal, yet they knew what wind uh, speaks to what season. They had the ability to tell which clouds had the ability to bring rain and which clouds only brought shade. There was this deep, profound wisdom that existed outside of what we now regard to be education. And I think there's an exiling. There was a necessary exiling and an intentional exiling of that way of being, that way of thinking, that way of dreaming, seeing, breathing, eating, dancing, listening. That these young people have invited me to, what's the word, reclaim, or to bring back from exile. And yeah, I've been doing that work, and the virtue, by that virtue, that's how we formed collectively through these young people. It wasn't my choice to start a institute or organization called Reimagine Learning, or community, a learning community called Reimagine Learning. It was I was following something, I was listening to something, and I was being led by something.
So, tell us, where does that journey get you to? Like, how old were you, and where did you build the school, or
Oh yeah,
things
so
like that?
I was at the time 22 years old. I walked out of varsity at the end of 21 after completing 3 years. Uh, and in my fourth year, I was to do my practicals. I never done my practicals. I walked out, and I was with these young people and by virtue of these young people, other young people came into the space. The community grew. There was a time I remember where there was just a bunch of kids and most of their parents were either sangomas, nyangas, musicians, and I was like, yo, Mudimu, what responsibility do I have to these children? And the fact that these parents trust me, and I have no degree, I don't know what I'm doing. And through that idea of not knowing what I'm doing, there was life that came. So that space of not knowing, that spaciousness, or what can sometimes feel like anxiety.
Where did they find you? Because we're trying to create
Yeah,
the picture in our heads. Like,
I
is
don't
there
know.
is there a
Word of mouth.
building?
Word of mouth. There was, so we used to have a structure in Troyville, a very huge, beautiful property where the project existed for about 9 years.
Okay.
There was no advertising, there was no big sign, there was nothing. It was just, and you wouldn't even see the property because it was surrounded by trees. It was on Albertina Sisulu, and you can drive past it now, but you wouldn't see it. It was hidden. And I always said, I'm not sure if I'm doing something right or if the world is just revealing its deepest and darkest truths of its reality that it's not doing justice to nobody. So I don't know if it's the world forcing people to find me, and people are already having this curiosity, or if I'm actually doing something special. Yeah, so we had this project, land-based project. Currently, Reimagine Learning has transformed from being a land-based project to being more of I think maybe we'll take two steps back before I name that. So after 8 years of doing this unlearning, I got to a point where I became the biggest critic because I'm constantly thinking about this. And what I found was that we had a very utopian experience. As soon as you walk into that property, the energy changed you. You took off whatever jacket you were carrying with anxiety and fear. You took off that jacket and someone else was present. Some, and not even one, some bodies else was present. The plural of many other things were present. However, when you leave, specifically in Troyville, like Jeppestown, um, Perea, you unfortunately had to put that jacket back on to survive. And I told myself, or I came through in a vision that I don't think my work is to influence and address. I don't want this work to be locative. I don't want this work to be just 61 Troyville, a specific location in Joburg. I want this work to be cultural. That way, it exists beyond me. That I have the ability to come to a center, I can come into Nsiki's house and we can be in a learning community. I can go to Emarenja Dam, I can be in a learning community. I can go to Emakaya, I can be in a learning community. It becomes cultural, it becomes something that we carry within ourselves, not just something that happens when we're at a specific place at a specific time. So by virtue of that, I was asked to surrender the land-based project and to start the work on how it can become a cultural school, a learning school that doesn't just exist within my body, but in the many bodies of people like Mam Yolanda, Gogo Noni, Umkulu Victor, Picos Mana, so many people that I can now name that hold this as a value, a cultural value, a value of Ubuntu.
So how do you, because I'm assuming these people that came to you were tired of the school system, right? So what is it about the school system that was not resonating that made you follow this?
Yo, there's so much. I'm gonna take a breath just to try to see what story wants to surface. Let's look at our reality today. How many young people out there with degrees on various levels without a job? How many people are in positions where their degree never even mattered, or whatever they studied never even mattered? How many people are with degrees without jobs and are with debt? How many people have, like the young person I met many years ago who was 6 years old, had to carry this burden of being a failure? How many suicides have happened because of the schooling system? And I would like to extend this word suicides not just to the suicides of physical bodies, but the suicides, once again, of dreams, of imaginations, of callings, of ambitions, real ambitions, ambitions of the soul. Um, and if we look at specifically the African child, it's the most disruptive child within the schooling system. It's the child that has the most learning disorders or learning barriers to learning. It's a child that is the most understood, most ununderstood, that not understood. Uh, it's the child that also causes the most problems. It's the child whose mom gets called every weekend or every day, and the mom comes home and the mom can't even connect with the child anymore because the mom has to first filter the fact that this child has made shit or made kak at school. And now the mother and child's relationship is severed because the mother can't be a caregiver anymore. The mother must become now an appendage, an arm of the school that has to correct and tell the child how wrong he or she is because of certain characteristics or certain processes that surfaced within the schooling system. Um, Also, just at its roots, like if we look at the schooling system, how it was implemented, why it was implemented, to whom it was implemented, um, it was implemented to create a worker. It was implemented around this narrative of success. That means you go to school, you work till you die, and you're done. Or maybe you get married, you work till you die, and then done. And is that true? Is that what we are all here for? Is this the calling that our ancestors have provided us to be alive? Like, they invited us to this moment to be alive. And I think, for me, I speak for myself, I say no. And I think everybody at some point in their life realizes the question, but there's no community. There's not a lot of people saying unschooling. Even if I say that word, some people get heart palpitations or there's a somatic feeling of their chest tightening because it goes against everything you've been taught.
Yeah.
It goes against everything we've been told is success. It goes against everything, the way we eat, the way we think, um, how we get money. It goes against everything. And yeah, my trajectory is that schooling won't be around for another 150 years. We might even just have the last, I'm a radical thinker, and I would say we might just have 10 years of schooling left the way it is. We're at the end of a certain system, at the end of a certain chapter of, of, of the way things are. And now more than ever, there is a need for courage. There's a need for us to risk letting go of what we thought will hold us so safe. There's a need for us to be a bit uncertain, to be a bit unsure. And in that unsurety, in that uncertainty, something exists.
So how do we, if we are unschooling, how do we teach the children how to read or how to do maths and things like that?
So, what I love about this term, and I'm so grateful for your question, um, the assumption is that without instruction, there is no learning and teaching. That is one of the many fallacies that keep our system moving. That And if we look at where this thinking comes from, it's rooted in coloniality, that children, much like indigenous people, are savages. They are to be tamed. They are wild, ignorant beings that don't have any knowledge, logic, or everything. And just like I mentioned earlier, our grandmothers and grandfathers from a few years ago who never went to school knew how to maybe not read English, but they knew how to read each other. They knew how to read weather. They knew how to read circumstance. They knew how to read family conflict and family tensions. Um, I'm not saying that is an excuse for us children not to read. No. In my experience with the Learning Center, weird things have happened. An example of it, and I give you an example. Let's take, for instance, maths. We'll get to English now. A young person, I was playing a game with where we put a bottle there and I put a bottle here, and I was playing with a 4-year-old at the time. And I kicked the ball and I hit down the bottle. They say, 1 point Chèvanni. I'm like, yes. I kick the bottle again. They say 2 point Chèvanni. No, they're on zero still. So I say, let me kululega gangan and not make this. Let me not use my adultism, this superior complex I have to now. Let me humble myself and let's play. So I miss. They say, okay, -1. We're now back at 1. I'm like, oh wow. At 4 years old, without the schoolish teacher format, you are exemplifying maths. You just -1. I kick the bottle down again. They say, now you're at 0. I'm like, okay, now we even. Let me chill. I had the intention to hit the bottle now so I can get 1. Kanti, by the grace of God, I miss. And guess what this young 4-year-old tells me? -1, Chèvanni. I'm like, yeah, man. My brain does that moment because according to curriculum, a 4-year-old doesn't have the capacity to comprehend negative numbers. Negative numbers only gets introduced in grade 3. This person is not even the age to be in crèche, yet they have the ability to comprehend negative numbers. And I was like, wow. I took a step back. I'm like, okay, Sharp. So there, for instance, just through a simple game, there was higher grade maths happening to a 4-year-old through play. Not that I intentionally, once again, we must also be aware that our gift doesn't work by it being prompted. If for instance, you were a singer, or I'm not sure if you are a singer in Ziggy, but if and I say, okay, you're a singer, now sing. Are you going to give your best? Will you be able to?
Mm-mm.
It doesn't work like that.
Mm-mm.
It does not work like that.
Mm.
Even for me to speak here today, I first had to go ask permission. I couldn't just
Yeah.
show up and speak. No, we don't work like that. We will never work like that. So when we do that through modes of testing and prompting kids to show up with their best, when we look for learning, we'll always struggle to find it. But when we don't look for it, when we just simply are with each other in a way where we're not trying to force anything, things reveal themselves by virtue of natural happiness. The same way that, this game, 30 seconds,
Mm.
that is a great learning to read game. Why? Because there's so much excitement. If you walk into a room and people are playing 30 seconds, you feel the energy.
Yeah.
It's a energy. And the young people watching say, I also want to play. So they join. And word by word, they start making sense of these words. Maybe by first assistance, saying, no, this is the word, they may help you. After, I think, a year of some of the kids being 7, 6 years old of playing this game, they picked up the words and they started learning to read and write. Not because I asked them to read and write, but because they wanted to join. They had this they had this sensitivity to want to belong. And they learned to read and write not because of wanting to pass a grade. They learned to read and write because of their ability, their ambition to belong.
Will.
A will to belong. A will to belong. And learning through the virtue of willing to belong to something greater is a whole different type of education. It's an education that doesn't need a highlighter or repetition 1,000 times. It's the same way we have the ability to remember lessons that we learned in our life without even reciting it. And the ones that we recited and we use highlighters, we don't remember. Gatle, gatle,
Yeah.
why? How? For who? For how? And the ones we never use the highlighter, we remember.
Hmm. Based on understanding.
Based on understanding and based on a desire, a deep and internal desire to belong. And I remember another example of learning to read and write. This one is controversial because the young person, I won't say their name, that I worked with was diagnosed with dyscalculia. Dyscalculia is when a psychologist comes in and says that this person has the inability to do numbers. So maths is taken out of their curriculum. Note, this is a brown, chocolate skinned young African boy. And me, I hold tension, taking this histories of Kemet and maths that is so closely related to African cosmology. How dare we assume a brown brother, a young person, a young ancient, not to have the capacity to do maths? What I found was, in our deeper relationship, that at different times when parents went through stress and they said, Chèvanni, just give this child a worksheet to see, to make sure that, because of course in this journey, parents moved, they ebb and flow through anxiety of control
Yes.
and
Yes.
trust in Chèvanni or trust in this process. And in one of the moments of like going through anxiety, one of the parents asked me to give this boy a worksheet. And when I saw when he does this worksheet, um, he would write the right answer, but under breath he would say to himself, I'm stupid. And he would cross out that answer and he would write something wrong. And I was like, yo, Mudimu.
Mm.
And on top of this boy was also given Ritalin. Ritalin,
Mm.
I never knew what it was. Gatle, one day I said to this boy, bruh, if I'm going to give you this pill, I want to first also have it myself. So I'm going to give you a pill because your parents asked me to, and I'm also going to take a pill. I took the Ritalin with him. And yo, that pill now, it can turn the most colorful day into a gray day of existential dread. where you don't even feel like you have the ability to talk. You are there, a docile being. It looks, the world will think, this guy is focusing or this guy is processing. But inside, you are as empty. I don't know what that pill does. It does something crazy to the body. And I was like, yo, I told the parents, I'm never going to give this child this pill again because of what I know it does. And I advise anybody that's giving their children Ritalin to take that for yourself and ask yourself, is this a psychoactive or is this, what is going on here? Because it suppresses. Its intention is to suppress gifts. That's what that pill does. It suppresses gifts. And this boy is big energy, big energy. He's a community, like he's that child of the community that he gets along with everybody. But when he takes that pill, he won't talk to nobody. He will be in his bubble. And it's appropriate for the school because he's not disrupting. His gifts are not rubbing off the intention of this mainstream system. Uh, that same boy, we spent 2 years not doing any schooling. We were doing a lot of maths. He learned how to play the piano and many other instruments by virtue of his own interests. He went on to also learn and do a lot of things with computers and coding and stuff like that. And then I think it was in the second year when he went to the white medical doctors, psychologists, which is also a problem in our communities. And when he got this diagnosis of dyscalculia, he said, I want to prove this white lady wrong. And by virtue of him not having to pass the exam because of matric or anything like that, he just wanted to prove her wrong. He wrote the grade 10 exam with no concessions, no Ritalin, and he got 67%. He spent like 2 months just sitting with himself on YouTube, learning. He went to go see different people that he felt comfortable with, just to write the exam, just to prove that he is not stupid, to prove that he's not a failure, to prove that there's not something wrong with him. And at the age of 18, we had a conversation, and he reflected to me that, yo, Chèvanni, I'm so grateful for you, because if it wasn't for you, I realized I was developing a way of being that made me think that me suppressing myself made the world okay. And I was going to develop a drug addiction based on this principle of me taking a pill to make the world, to make me better for the world. And for him to come to terms with that, I wasn't even thinking about that at the time, but he had the ability to make sense that literally I was going through the most, and you asked for these pills not to be given to me anymore. And because of that, I could have ended up so different. And I'm thankful for you stopping the beginning of what would have been a drug addiction. And also addressing the internal issue, the self-talk issue of saying I'm stupid by giving me vocab and giving me practice and giving me tools and community. Because I tell you, they might say I did it, but I was there with them. That's why I say I don't even like to call myself a teacher or founder or anything of that nature, because Gase, I never knew what was going on. We all were discovering what was happening together, young and old.
So, what are you saying to parents, Chèvanni? What are you saying to them?
So the idea of unschooling doesn't mean that we need to take our children outside of school. I don't think that is the answer completely. Yes, that is maybe a move, but if we look at it, we have to go to work. The culture of caregiving or ugogo is in Emakaya. We are in Jozi. Our culture of being in proximity to each other has been torn by the very system that we are fueling. So I think what I'm wanting to cultivate within parents is a deep questioning, and not a questioning just in your individual body, but a collective questioning as a family. I think more importantly for adult bodies, to loosen our grip on what we think we know is right and true. Because we can still unschool, we can still unlearn, we can still de-school without children being in school. Because schooling only exists a certain amount of years. Our children spend weekend with us, there's after school, we put them to bed. And I think it's in these moments that we can either choose to be a teacher, a lecturer, or we can choose to be, and I say this, I know in the African context it might seem like, hey, this child is going to dalela me, or this child is going to lose respect for me because I'm not being that
Authority figure.
authority figure. I'm asking us collectively to trust. I'm asking us to trust. I mean, I would like to lean onto this word Ubuntu. Ubuntu, and if we think about it, like, do we even have capacity to think about Ubuntu in our current context, where we are like 500 years deep in a colonial project where we are separated from our food, where the colonial context tells us who prays at what time. It dictates who does yoga and who can't do yoga, who has the ability to eat healthy food, who doesn't have the ability to eat healthy food, who has the ability to partner, who has the ability to not partner. This is determined by our mainstream system. So the same system that is really doing so much harm, are we really going to trust it that much? And if we look at the young people within society, they do such an interesting job at disrupting mainstream society. A beautiful example that I like to call on is a young child crying in a space that is extremely capitalistic or extremely consumeristic or extremely colonial. Be it a bank, be it a police station, be it a mall, be it a hospital. Nseki, you tell me, what does a young person screaming or letting that raw emotion show up? How does that disrupt these settings? There's this panic that is created. There's this panic that's created in the parent that I need to control my child. I need to control my child. There's all these eyes looking at me. There's a whole mind game that happens once this child is exploring their emotions, and we feel the need to police. We feel the need to literally oppress that emotion. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, to the sense of all I'm asking collectively is that can we give ourselves firstly 5 seconds just to be with that emotion, just to be with that rawness, just to feel what is going on in our body when this moment of tension, when this child is screaming in the mall, or in the bank, or in the hospital, like just to be with it, and then see what arises thereafter. I can't. I don't have the ability to prophesize what will happen thereafter, but I do know that there's a gentle softening that happens, and it doesn't happen through a comfortable way. It happens in a very type of way. But there's a softening that happens in this moment where we just allow the young person to be. And by virtue of giving the young person permission and to explore their emotions, we in turn go back and repair our own moments where we needed to scream, we needed to shout, but we weren't allowed to shout. And we go back and fetch and we give ourselves space to experience those very same emotions once again.
But isn't it about making a noise for the other people?
I'm taking an intentional pause. uh, is it really about making a noise? What is a noise? What is this idea of a noise? I mean, this is a human on earth screaming because they've never had the ability to explore their emotions before. This is their first time having the ability to really explore what happiness feels like, what sadness feels like, what anger feels like. They are learning. They are going through a deep initiation of learning about themselves in this moment. I mean, we're talking about a 3-year-old, we're talking about a 2-year-old, and we are more concerned with the noise they are, and not that they are making for us, because as a parent, you know your child will make a noise. We are more concerned with the disruption they are creating for everybody else.
Yeah.
We are more concerned with the disruption they create for the colonial idea of sterile, veneered peace. We are more concerned with the disruption they create that it creates for our memories of being a child, because we weren't allowed to scream like that. So because I wasn't allowed to scream like that, I'm not going to allow this person to scream like that. And that's exactly how coloniality happens. That's exactly how slavery happens. That's exactly how apartheid happens. One person wasn't allowed a certain type of freedom, and that person said, okay, I'm going to make sure that everybody else doesn't have this freedom. So we are somatically in a feedback loop where if we don't stop, if we don't pause, we're just going to recreate the loop.
But I'm thinking like saying you're in a flight and then there's a child screaming. The disturbance of your peace when you want to have like me time, is that not what it's related to?
No.
Or are we supposed to train ourselves now?
What does Ubuntu mean in this context? Isn't there a level of compassion that we need to have as people? I mean, this is a 3-year-old. We're not talking about a grown adult that has the ability to think and rationalize and even the ability to regulate their body in such a way. Are you telling me that this 3-year-old creates such a conflict in a span of 10, 20 seconds? Because they're also not going to cry forever. Like children ebb and flow between big emotions. It's like it doesn't last forever. They will actually calm down. And sometimes the nature of it that the more we try to calm them down, they don't calm down. It happens to adults as well. Like some people,
Yes.
you say, no, stop it, stop it, stop it. And they say, no, 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 no. And it actually escalates because we've lost the ability to trust. I'm doing a lot of work around exiled capacities. That's been a big theme in a certain faculty of the reimagined learning. There's a group of people, old and young, who sit down to explore different themes. And one of these themes is exiled capacities. These are all these emotions that have been tabooed, that we've been sort of told that are not healthy, that we should one side put in a pocket, put in a closet. Uh, these are emotions like grief, sadness, anger, jealousy, that we are told are bad, are simply bad. And anytime they show up, collectively and individually, we do so much work to police and silence. And we at a point in time where we taking on research to see what happens when we hold space for these emotions, when we have the ability to feel grief, we have the ability to feel sadness. And what's very interesting about this colonial project is that these emotions directly disrupt capitalism. They directly disrupt the process because, for instance, let's take for instance grief. Grief has the ability to decapacitate you. It's a mind altering state that you will actually phone whoever and tell them you can't come to work today because you're moving through something. So it's very interesting that these emotions that we've tabooed and put one side are the exact same emotions that the system doesn't want us to experience because the system can't capitalize off us as beings when we're with these emotions. Yet, the cosmic joke of it is that these emotions like sadness, grief, anger, transform us in the most powerful ways. They actually are the lessons and are the medicines that change us, and not change us in a physical way. I'm talking about, I'm not sure. I know I'm sure. I'm not sure. I know I'm sure that every human has had the most profound experiences, life changing. I mean, I'm talking about like the soul experience through experiencing moments of grief or sadness and having the ability to have a recovery moment. And the person that comes back after this initiation through these emotions comes back so different, comes back refined, comes back
Yeah.
almost, I don't want to use this word better because I don't believe in it,
Yeah.
but comes back to an extent better,
Yeah, evolved.
evolved.
Hmm.
So the same discomfort that we taboo in young people, the same discomfort that we have tabooed in ourselves for 500 years, offers us weirdly the soul transformation that we are here to experience. It even, I know anger, for instance, offers the most crazy form of ambition.
Yeah.
Anger gets the things done. Anger gets the things done in
Yeah.
crazy ways. Yet, we are taught not to feel anger. We are taught, no, you better fix yourself. You better pull yourself together. And this pulling ourselves together is not really pulling ourselves together for the sake of community, or for the sake of Ubuntu, for the sake of our collective consciousness. It's pulling us together so we can function once again in the system. That's what pulling us together means, literally.
Thank you so much, Chèvanni. Thank you. It's been a privilege getting all this. We're going to have to unpack some more. I'm sure we're going to call you again because there's a lot that you've given us too. Because I think a lot of parents, when you speak about unschooling, they didn't quite understand and they speak about the group dynamics that they need the children to be in a social system. So we'll definitely be calling you again.
Same.
Thank you.
Yeah, same. Actually, I want to say one more thing. I think that the unlearning is not about uh, forgetting what we know. It's more about creating the space for what we don't know. And there's so much that we don't know.
Sure, I don't know what we're going to do with our children. This is why I don't have kids. This is so higher grade. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. It's been a pleasure being with you. And please watch all the adverts till the end. We'll see you again next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've got lots of information, eh?
Yeah.
Can adults not unlearn them?
Everybody unlearns. It's not a child-centered thing. It's actually the work we do for each other, through each other. So every time you trigger me, it gives me, first of all, a whole curriculum that I need to go tend to. And in the same, when I tend to that curriculum within me, I increase my capacity to be with you in a far more deeper, more profound, less CV-orientated way. Because the only way adults know how to be with each other is the CV version of ourselves.
Yeah.
Children don't have that. Children are themselves.
Yeah.
African spirituality says that children are closer to Nkulunkulu, they're closer to Moya.
Yes.
Elders are closer to Moya. An elder once told me that I'm not an elder, I'm actually in my second childhood. So the child being is probably the most sacred indigenous form that we have in this world, and we are doing so much work to deny them that. And by denying them that, we are denying ourselves.
So then all of us must, would that not mean that all of us should be
Exactly.
learning each other then, basically?
All the time.
Like it doesn't have to just be like your own child.
No.
It could be a random kid as well. Like
And that's, we have greater empathy. Ubuntu becomes more real for us once, because it's not just a random kid. You're gonna, by unlearning, unlearning, what we unlearning is this 500-year project of separation that says that we are all separated. A subject-object rationality, that I am a subject and I'm here to experience objects. So that also means that Wena, you are object to me. That is what school teaches, that we are not connected. There's no virtue of deep connection. One short example, just before I give, is that like one of the biggest criticism I had, especially when parents came to the institution and they said, oh, but how does my child get into university? I'm like, you were supposed to put your child in mainstream school if you wanted to do that. Because I think the virtue of what I'm trying to instill is that, imagine I saw this chair, not as an object, but I saw this chair as a grandmother, that I saw this chair as minerals that were offered from the earth for me to come here and sit today. Do you think I'll have the ability to sit on this chair, to hit it and to make it fall, if I regarded it to be kin, if I regarded it to be family? I would have a whole other cosmovision with regard to this chair.
Reverence.
A reverence, a sense of community, a sense of Ubuntu. Not just the Ubuntu that's placed in people. I'm talking the cupboards, the camera, the technology, the light. All of this is ancestors. It's kin, it's family, it's community. And it's that I'm, so in unlearning the colonial object rationality, we are evoking a sense of animism, where everything is alive, and everything has a story, and everything is here to hold us, to be with us, and the most crazy things, the things that trigger us, are the things that's longing for the most intimacy with us.
So like that fear that our parents would probably have in taking their children out of school, like I think a lot of it comes from like especially with us here in like the north, or who are from the north, or who have all this education. It comes from not getting that success that we've been promised, or whatever, and we don't want to live like like let's say people like us, or like people like when I went to the Eastern Cape recently, and it was lovely, like it was beautiful, and the people just live. Everyone just lives their life as is. They're allowed to be loud. They're allowed to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
And to them, it's not like an entitlement of having of having people be quiet around them. Like there's a moment for everything, and if you don't want people to be loud, you're allowed to just say stop being loud.
Yeah.
So I think it's that whole connection, in that like once we can finally understand that, or my understanding of what you're saying, once we can finally understand that there's different successes for every single person, and we're allowed to point out what we don't like and do like, which is the problem with us now.
Yes.
Where like the child in the mall, you should be, if you want your peace, be able to say like, child, like you're making a noise, and they should still be able to scream or listen to, instead of you just like giving them the side eye, like all these parents are not keeping their child under wraps. It should be a Ubuntu.
Yeah. Power over versus
Yeah.
power with.
Yes.
The moment, the one that you, the first example you gave is power with, where both you realize the power in the child and you also realize the power within yourself. To say we are negotiating as ancestors. You know, when we when we pray, it's negotiation with ancestors.
Yeah.
We offer, it's a negotiation.
Yeah.
So the same with the ancestral being, in the living ancestors. It's a negotiation, and it's that this child. Why am I triggered, gata? What is this child doing? This child is probably somebody of mine who is talking now, and they're offering me some homework. And once again, we also live in a culture where we're not taught to take responsibility, specifically as people. We go to systems for responsibility. So we go to the court system, we go to police, we've lost the ability.
Agency.
We've lost that. And what I'm inviting is this sense of agency. And yes, it comes to this word unschooling, because I believe the schooling system is one of the biggest cogs in this big system. And I believe if we can change the way we learn, we change the way we live. Yeah. Thank you. Kamaku. Big up. Thank you.
Who are you when all you were has been diluted by lies and white lines cancelling out all that which has been written of your history? Why do you look at yourself as a mystery? Doesn't the sun shine because you open your eyes? Doesn't the moon stay situated within the same stars your DNA sparkles off? Your spirit knows that surely corner into it off. Buza umoya, so you may return to being well off. Because spiritually you are rich, yet your ancestors cry because you are out of reach. But yours is to command all elements, while God takes inspiration from the very mirror she looked at to become. Remember who you are, and never finish just when they think that with you they are done.